Hi everyone, it's Keren here with a step-by-step video tutorial featuring monoprinting techniques using a gel plate and Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks. Enjoy! The first thing I did is I took 3 colors of the Tim Holtz Distressed Oxide inks and I pressed them onto the gel plate randomly on all different sides. I used cracked pistachio, wilted violet, and faded jean. Then I took some deli paper and just created an impression by pressing it in the back onto the plate. I took a second deli paper and created a ghost print as well. I cleaned my gel plate and then took the same 3 colors again, but this time I applied them with the daubers, the Tim Holtz daubers, because I wanted to kind of blend the colors together. I didn't want to create any squarish marks in the background, and this is another way that you can apply it onto the gel plate. This time I took a piece of watercolor paper and pressed it onto the background to create the print. I took all 3 prints I created and I took some water and sprayed it to see how it reacts with the water. So here is it on the watercolor paper. I sprayed it and then dabbed it with a paper towel and it created really nice splatter marks. Then I sprayed it on the deli paper as well. First on the ghost print, and because it didn't have a lot of the ink, it didn't really show, but then I used it on the first print that I did, and it actually showed nicely when I used the water. I do see that it wasn't as strong as an impression or a splatter as on the watercolor paper because the wax from the deli paper creates a resist. I wanted to create a monoprint in a few more colors, so I took spiced marmalade, fired brick, and fossilized amber and applied them to the gel plate. I used the Art Foamy's flower clock stamp to create impressions in the plate, and then I took one of the deli papers that I had already printed and just made an impression in the background. Then I did the same thing again. I inked the whole plate and then took the same stamp, but this time I sprayed and wet it and then created the impressions in the background and used another deli paper, and this time the impressions became much stronger as the water had reacted with the ink. I was even able to create a ghost print of what was left over in the background. The flower clock stamp was designed by Knight Kessler for Art Foamy's. I took another Art Foamy stamp. This time it's designed by Balzer Designs. It's the writer's block, and I inked it in the fired brick and stamped it onto the gel plate. Then I took one of the deli papers I had already used and I pressed it onto the background. I wanted to add some contrasting colors to the deli paper, so I took the faded jean and I stamped it with one of the Art Foamy spiral stamps. I stamped the background of the gel plate and then I used the deli paper to create some more texture in one of the prints. Then I took Rebecca Mayer's Art Foamy stamp mandala and I again made an impression on the plate and then used a print to create some texture on that second print. took Natalie Kalbat's foamy stamp Chicago and used it with the walnut stain Distress Ink Oxide and just stamped it onto the background first. I was able to get 2 impressions on the deli paper with this nice pattern. Then I took the same stamp, but this time I wet it and rubbed it with my finger and stamped on the background. The print that I got was more like a watermark and it turned out really nice. I wanted to play a little bit more and create some more impressions, so I took the fired brick and the spiced marmalade and just applied it to the background. Then I took another watercolor paper and just pressed it to create the print. For a fun technique, I splattered the gel plate in the back with water and then just used the same watercolor background print that I had done and pressed it onto the plate. And that's when it created these really cool splatters. Then I took the same 2 colors again and created another print with the different design so I could use it later on. I added to this last print by using 2 other colors, the Wilted Violet and Cracked Pistachio. I just basically put them onto the background and then sprayed them with some water. So I pressed this onto the previous print, and the nice thing that happened is that the bottom colors came through to the top without too much blending. I created another impression using the Wilted Violet and the Cracked Pistachio so I could experiment with other techniques as well. And then created one more impression with the spiced marmalade and the fired brick. I just started doing squares all around. I just wanted to have fun and create a different impression on the background. I took one of the dried prints and use a round gel to use it as a stamp with the Cracked Pistachio. So I just inked it and then stamped it onto the background. Then I took a larger gel plate circle and inked it with the broken china and sprayed it with some water and then stamped with it, and that turned out so cool. I really loved how this turned out. It almost looks like a globe to me, and I did this a couple times while I wet it and then stamped with it, and the water swished around and created these really cool patterns on the background. I took another one of the dried prints and then just simply stamped with water. I used a small gel plate circle, sprayed it with water, and then just pressed it onto the background to create a pattern. So again, here I'm pressing the paper onto the small circle, but then I went ahead and used it as a stamp as well. I took the large circle gel plate again and inked it with Worn lipstick, the Oxide ink, and then I stamped it with Art Foamy's Rebecca Mayer's script heart. Then I took the circle and basically stamped with it onto the background, to one of my prints. I repeated the process with the large circle, and then I took the smaller circle and did the same thing. I used the broken china ink and then stamped the actual circle with a spiral Art Foamy stamp. And this time I actually wet the small circle, so the impression was a little bit more watery and it had a really cool effect. Then I took the same stamp just to play around. I took the Art Foamy stamp and stamped with it both regularly right into the ink pad, and then I sprayed some water on my actual mat and just dipped the stamp into the water and then stamped it onto the paper. I continued playing with more techniques. I took the broken china and basically dabbed it onto my mat and then sprayed it with water. Then I took the Natalie Kalbach Art Foamy Chicago stamp, one of the two stamps, and I started pressing it onto one of the prints. I really love how this turned out. I think it's one of my favorites. I just loved how when I was pressing it and it was wet, it became really almost like a watermark. Then I said to myself, oh, I really want to try it with some gel. You know how I love experimenting with gel medium. So I took some Prima Marketing soft matte gel medium, and I basically went and put it on the small circle gel plate and then stamped it onto one of my prints. I just stamped it with no color, just on its own, just to see what would happen. The plain gel had no reaction. It just gave a really nice texture in the background. So I decided to try it and take it a step further. And I inked the gel, small circle, with some broken china ink, and then added the gel on top and mixed it, and it created a colorful medium that I could stamp with. Then I did the same thing with the fired brick. I put it onto the circle and then added a little bit more gel because I wanted a thicker texture. So I pressed it onto the background to create this really nice colored texture. Because these inks have a lot of pigment in them as well, they work really well when mixed with other mediums. So I put some of it again on my mat, and then I took the gel medium and mixed it together. Then I used it almost as paint, and I dipped the circle into the actual mixture and then stamped with it onto my background, and it created a kind of a paint with the actual distressed inks. You can see how cool this background with the large blue circles from before, how cool it turned out. I took this one step further and I used the wilted violet, and what I did is I mixed it again with the gel medium and stamped it onto the background. What I wanted to see is that if I spray the gel while it's still wet with the water, will it have any reaction? And what I wanted to do is kind of get the same reaction that I had in a previous video where I added water to the gel and it crackled. And it did happen a little bit, but not as much as it has before. But the key with this is drying it right away. And it did crackle a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to. Once the gel fully dried, it actually really looked cool, as you can see in the still picture that I took at the end. Once mixed with the gel, the ink really didn't have any reaction when it was sprayed with the water, which was interesting to see. Finally, just to have a little bit more fun, I took the Faded Gene Distress Ink Oxide, and I put it on my mat, and then splattered it with sprayed it with water, and then splattered it with a paintbrush onto my background to create some really nice splattered designs. There is so many more techniques that I would have liked to try. After finishing the video, I thought of so many more ideas, so maybe that's a good thing for another video. There's so many things you can experiment with and try, so I encourage everyone to just do that and play with the gel plates and the Distress Oxide inks. I really loved playing with them. It was so much fun. Thank you so much for watching. For more inspiration, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye!